Welcome to Resilient in Business, a podcast where we dive into insights, strategies, and systems to help you build scalable, thriving businesses. My name is Jad Atwe. I'm an engineer, an entrepreneur, and a business coach. Our intention from this show is to provide value and inspire entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward no matter the challenges. If you enjoy the content, subscribe and help us spread the message. Now, let's get into today's episode. I'm excited to be here today with Matthew Simons. Matthew is the partner at AI Catalyst Partners, where they specialize in helping people with AI strategy. Matthew, thank you for joining us. I'm excited for this conversation.
Jad, thank you very much for having me. Very excited to be here and very much looking forward to this conversation.
Let's start with how did your career progress to today? What was your journey like?
Journey, that's an interesting one. And in thinking about today, I was like, how early do I start, And I'm not going to take it all the way through from my childhood, but actually in reflection, what I think was very formative for me. I've been working since I was 13 and I started in a weekend job. And why do I bring this up? Because that job at 13, I worked in a menswear shop. It was an old-fashioned menswear shop. And it really taught me a couple of things. It taught me about customer service. I call it old-fashioned, but how do you what is customer service? How do you service a customer? How do you talk to a customer? How do you understand their needs, right? And then solve their needs, right? And even though it was a clothing shop, those foundations have stayed with me really for many, many years. And I think the other thing that also gave me, I was a very shy 13-year-old, and by the time I sort of left there at 18, I felt more comfortable with sales. I just wanted to start there because it's although it's a very long time ago now, some of those skills and some of those things that I learned then carried through my career. But I won't bore you with all of it. But yeah,
you don't have to go year by year.
Yeah. Well, that'd be a long time for me. But that's a good place to start. I think then, if we fast forward to that sort of the university years, and I decided, at the time to do a very practical. I decided to do business. I was very interested in history. But I was weighing them up and I was like, do I do business? Do I do history? And, the practical side, and actually wanted to get a job, and all of that sort of led me down the business route. And as part of that, I came across marketing. And of course, I've heard about marketing, when I was growing up and what is it? And it is. But I came across marketing in my degree. And it was something, to be honest, that I was attracted to. Initially, I think it was like, I find this easy. So, I can spend more time down the pub. I need to work so hard. But I started to realize that there was actually something that I really enjoyed about it. And the idea of being able to communicate and get a company's message out there, to get any message out there, to be able to get people's to buy things, to appreciate what you're offering. There was something about it that sparked in my mind. And so I sort of, through my degree, those business, I specialized a bit in marketing. And then as I came out of that, looking for marketing jobs, and that's where my sort of career started. And I normally started in a very small business with 20, I think there was about 20 people in the business when we started. And it was in accident management. Who knew growing up that I would go into accident management? But there you go. And first job, and it was, because there was only 20 people and we grew it, and I think it was about 50, 60 people when I left. And I was normally the marketing manager, but I was doing everything from looking after from telephone systems to databases, and kind of doing a bit of marketing as well. And it was a great time, a great experience, and you sort of learn lots. But as part of that, it was the start of the digital age. And if you go back to, just before 2000, and when we developed the first website, we developed the first interactive membership cards. And I was thinking, there's something in this digital. Yeah, I like this. And the sort of the marketing principles, and I like data, and then this digital, there's going to be something in it. And so I left and joined a Silicon Valley startup, which was a digital impact. And it was a startup in email marketing. And it was, back in 2000, you can imagine what the Valley was like. And it was typical startup, the CEO walking around in shorts and, beer things on Friday, and before they realized that they shouldn't be serving beer to under 21-year-olds. But it was that sort of culture, and very frenetic growth, very exciting. And I got to spend time in San Francisco. I spent time in New York, and a very exciting time. But and it was a pioneer, and it was a pioneer in email, pioneer in data-driven marketing, and towards our later bit of the conversation, that's when I first came across AI and machine learning, because we were using machine learning, using the data, and then using machine learning to work out what those personalized messaging was, and driving that at scale, and some of the pioneering work I got to be involved in then with clients like HP and developing a global program for them, which at the time I think was something, I know we hit 196 countries, and there were like, 2 people in Micronesia and things like that. But there 196 countries this communication went out to, and 27 different languages, and really, really data driven. And so some really interesting things early on in my career. And that really then sort of set the tone, I think, for the rest of my career, continuing to work for some sort of big American companies that have been involved in Axiom and then Epsilon. I'm really involved in data and using data to drive engagement with customers, to help companies, achieve their goals, their growth, their engagement goals, etc. And the other piece of that, which fascinated me, and actually I got involved in it with Accident Care, but even more so in my career, is how do you blend data, technology with creative? Because technology is interesting, right? But it's an enabler. Data is interesting, but it's the creative expression of that really grabs people, that really engages people. So how do you bring those two worlds together? And I've been very lucky, both at Digital Impact, Axiom, and then Epsilon, have us to be able to bring those worlds together. And I think those worlds coming together are really powerful in terms of how a company needs to think about digital marketing, and think about using data, and how to use data then to drive that creative, either personalized creative, or the insights you can drive to data that then leads to the right creative message, the right imagery, the right words, the right visual stuff. That blend of technology and creative has been a theme throughout my career. And the other thing really has been transformation. So as I said, I've been around a while. Back to 2000, there've been waves of digital transformation, big data, and using CRM and mobile and cloud, and that's where, if we think forward to why AI, when I left the corporate job in 23, looking around and thinking, getting, this AI has been around for a long time. As I said, I've involved it for many years, but sort of the generative AI becoming a big thing, this was the next wave for me. And I really saw sort of all the experience and the principles that we'd applied or seen go right and go wrong in previous digital transformations. How could then I apply that to, AI? And that's really where it sort of went from my career in previous careers. And that's where it sort of jumped to the AI and what I'm doing now.
So you're kind of native to it, not new to this digital transformation field.
It feels it, yeah. When I talk about it, it is. When people meet people at parties and be, how do you get into AI so early? And I said, well, I've been doing this stuff for a long time. So yeah, it does feel like an extension for a lot of what we do. But I think what's fascinating to me is digital transformations in the past, the ones I've been involved in, have been functional, to do with functions, a marketing function, a finance, or whatever. I think with AI, I think the big difference is it is so organized, it goes right across an organization. And that's why the transformation I think you need for AI is I wouldn't say fundamentally different, but it is different. It's not something that you can see, because I've seen this before, you see transformation in silos, which this bit we're going to do over here. You can't do if you want an effective AI transformation, you can't do it in silos. You can't do it piecemeal. You need to be thinking about the organization.
Yeah. How are you finding the are people excited about it? Is there resistance? Like, what's the are people nervous? What are you finding is the sentiment?
All of those, I think. It's really interesting when we do our trainings and our sessions. We now always start with a survey and try and gather people's opinions. So we know in a room, and you get a room of 20 people, and you get a wide variety of people that are, some are 1 to 5, 1, we kind of vaguely heard what ChatGPT is. Most people have tried it, but not all. Up to, oh yeah, we feel really, we know what we're doing. So there's definitely a broad range. And interestingly, that is a broad range. It doesn't matter the age, because people say, oh, well, younger people, they know more technology. But, we've been in rooms and, it doesn't seem to matter. There's a broad range right across the age range of knowledge and previous usage. And then, to your point about, the attitudes, yeah, again, a whole range. Fear because that comes from, will it take my job? I don't understand it. I don't know what I'm doing. And then that's sort of an individual perspective. And then from a company perspective, we know we should be doing it. We know we have to be doing it. But again, we don't have the skills. We don't know where to start. How, and it's such, as I say, to do it properly, you really should be thinking about it, organizationally wide. So when, medium businesses, to get their head around complete transformation, I think is quite scary. Yes. So yeah, trepidation, nervousness. But on the other hand, when you look at what the potential is, and I think, for leadership in a business, it is very exciting what you can do. And then for individuals, when you start to show them the basics of it, don't be scared of it. This is how you use it. Just the excitement on people's faces when they walk out those trainings and they're like, I learned something. I'm going to go home. I'm going to tell my child. I'm going to go home and tell my children. I'm using ChatGPT. I'm doing these things. I think people start to see, once people's fear, it's like anything where you don't know something, you're fearful of it. But once you start to explain to somebody, I think there's that excitement and that wonder of, wow, what this could do.
Hey, a quick commercial break. This podcast is brought to you by Business Optimization Partners, a firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs systemize their business and transform it into a professionally managed asset that is scalable and easy to operate. If you wish to learn more, download the guide to running a professionally managed business that's available in the description. Now, back to the episode. Many businesses right now, especially people in the executive level, they know that they have to get into AI strategy. They have to do something. They have a board that they have to report back to.
Yeah.
But they don't know anything about it. They don't know where to start. What can we do? No idea. No one knows. So how should people approach having an AI strategy, deciding what should they focus on?
Yeah. So I think the absolutely key starting place for this, and this is going back to what I've seen fail with big transformations all the way through my career. If you start with look, it's a shiny new object. We must be doing AI. Let's do AI. Well, then you'll fail because you're just picking a shiny tool for the sake of it. The most important thing is to understand how it aligns with your business goals. What are you trying to achieve as a business? What are your barriers to that? And AI may, and by the way, I talk about AI, but we talk about AI and automation. In many people's minds, they're the same thing. They're not, but they're very closely linked to get the full benefits, I think. So when I talk about AI, I'm talking about AI and automation. Yeah, AI and automation may be the answer to those business problems. It may not be, by the way. As an AI consultant, when I stand up and say, AI might not be the answer to everything, but it's making sure you understand, here's what our business, never about, AI, what is our business challenge, right? What are we trying to achieve as a business? What are our plans to do that, right? And then once you have that, okay, here's your AI vision. How does AI fit into that? How can AI help us achieve that? So it's being business-led, not shiny new, toy-led. And that is the key starting place for any business that gets into this.
So you're saying before people used to think about in terms of departments, functions. Now it's important to have a complete overview. Can we elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I don't think, especially for any company, right? You can't we can't change everything at the same time. So there needs to be some prioritization. So I'm not saying that you have to do everything at the same time. That won't work either. But I think you need to have, as I said, that holistic view of what it can do for the business. because actually when you then start to go down, and we'll talk about use cases in a minute and how you prioritize, but just a sort of philosophical or even maybe a sort of technical architecture level, if you start to think about some of the building blocks you need to make AI successful, which is data, clean, available, that could come from different parts of the organization, and that will then fuel the solutions in different parts of the organization. So it's thinking about those underpinning of foundations across the organization. Doesn't mean you have to start everything, but the foundation pieces, like the data, like the technology. So, I'll say I will talk about use cases in a minute, but if you think about, okay, we could do these 5 different things, what's the underlying technology? Because you don't want to start putting in 5 different platforms and 5 different pieces of tech, because that becomes unwieldy. So thinking about it, aligning, what can you do company-wide is important, so the foundations can be company-wide. Technical, culture, people, skills, data, and for example,
Yes.
and governance. That's the other. My business partner would kill me if I didn't mention governance there, because again, doing this in a responsible way, responsible AI, you have to from the get-go. It's so important for numerous reasons. So getting those foundations right is really key as an organization level.
What?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I'm curious about governance. Like, what issues do you find? Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, why should we focus on and worry about that?
I think there's several reasons. I think first of all, just like data, the GDPR, over here, General Data Protection Regulations for the EU, privacy, these are always key issues for a business. But I think they're magnified with AI for several reasons. The fear factor with AI, the transparency that I believe you need to have with AI, and transparency with internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. So, if you're using AI, great. You need to tell your customers you're using it, right? You need to make sure your staff understand what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. Because again, it's very easy. Oh, well, let me use ChatGPT and I'll put in this document, and all of a sudden that private document, that private data set is part of OpenAI's training set, which, from a privacy. So ensuring you're wrapping governance is key right across the board. No more so, as I said, that example is one that normally scares people to putting usage policies in place because people don't know. And so putting that governance in place, making sure you're clear to your staff, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, being aware of that is a key thing. And also then, as I said, other stakeholders. What we're seeing now, for example, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but over here, you're starting to see people, when they're doing RFPs, for example, they're asking, well, what is are you using AI? How are you using AI? And so again, having those pieces in place is key. So you can be clear and transparent with, a broad range of stakeholders.
Why do they? This is a good point here. People care about RFPs where you use AI. They are that curious.
Yeah, I think, well, that comes from 2 reasons. One, depending on the service, if it's AI enabled, is it, one argument goes, oh, well, if you're using AI, then they should be cheaper. Okay, which is one thing. But if you're looking at it on a more positive perspective, I would want someone to be using AI because that's going to be the most efficient and it will create the greatest efficiencies for what they're providing. But then I'd also want to understand, though, that they're using AI in a responsible way. If I'm giving my data to a company that is using AI, great. But I want to understand what's happening to my company's data, my customers' data. So it's really important to build that trust. So there's the element of how efficient the service might be and any benefits from that. But as I say, the other side of it is just making sure that we're clear what's happening for me and my data, and my customers' data.
And in terms of prioritizing, what should we focus on? What's the process to that?
So, I think going through that use case, and it's really interesting when we talk to clients, we recommend doing top down, bottom up, right? And a lot of that, you walk in, especially the businesses that maybe we talk a little bit about the sort of different business sizes and the way, I think adoption is different across those different businesses and different sectors. But you often find businesses, they know where the challenges are. They know with a little bit of prodding, they understand what the potential use cases are. I think there's a couple of pieces here though. Getting the bottom up is really valuable as well for two reasons. One, it's change management, 101. If you get people involved in the process, then it demystifies it to them and they're less scared about it. If all of a sudden, what's right, we're using AI now and everyone's like, oh, are we losing our job, right? I mean, so getting people involved, so that, that's one side of it. The other side of it, it's so powerful because this is where, putting aside what AI could do, and it will disrupt the job market. One sitting here going, oh, it won't affect it. It will. But for me, it's an opportunity because one, you're not going to stop this train. I mean, AI, you're not going to say, oh, I can ignore AI, right? You're not going to be able to. So for me, I tell people and companies, you've got to embrace it, right? That's the biggest way you can protect against job disruption is to embrace AI, to understand it and understand what it can do and how you can work with it. Going through that process of identifying what those opportunities are does two things. One, I say it takes away the fear that, oh, we're just being replaced, but it also offers an amazing opportunity. And obviously you and I met on a business coaching course. And this is where those two worlds to me come together. Because if you think about the ideas of growth mindset, right, and continual change within an organization, the opportunity with AI and when you develop these use cases and getting people involved in that is, people are re-engineering their jobs, and giving people the agency to do that is really powerful. Giving people the opportunity to say, okay, let me reimagine my role. Let me reimagine what value I can bring to the organization, doing the things that I like doing the things that as a human I'm very good at, management, delegation, empathy, things like that. Working out a way that we can automate and use AI to do some of the more, mundane tasks that I didn't really like doing anyway. That way of approaching it is, triggers that growth mindset in people, right? It gives them agency. It gives them that ability to redefine their job. And so that's why that bottom up approach is also very, very powerful. So doing those exercises, and the third thing is the people on the ground, they know the job, right? They know where the bottlenecks are, right? It's fine for senior management and maybe they kind of get it, but I've never walked into a session, and this isn't just AI, it's last 20 years. You never walk into a session, and if you get the most junior people talking, right? And that's a different thing, but you get the most junior, they know where the bottlenecks are. They know where the challenges are. So getting their views is as important as the senior management. So top down, bottom up really works as sort of a combined approach. So identifying what those opportunities are, right? Asking some questions, that's what we do. Where's the biggest productivity gains? What's the most mundane tasks you're doing? Start with those. You ask them questions, you get those. But again, in these sessions we run, people, we don't think I don't know AI. We're not going to come up with anything. Ask them a couple of questions. And then 2 hours later, you're still writing down all these great ideas that they've got and the use cases. Yeah. So you end up with loads of them, right? And as I said, if you do that across a business, you get them in different functions and get different things. Then the real trick is to then prioritize. It's the same old, again, goes back to 20 years of transformation. What's the impact they're going to have? How easy is it to implement? Is it feasible? Because as always, and even more so with AI, getting some use cases, right? Not choosing ones that are going to take a year to get up and running or to have value. What are the use cases that we can get up and running in a very short time frame, that we can get people using it? People can get excited about it. They can see the value that it has. Oh, well, this is saving me time now. Great. This is brilliant. Oh, I like this AI stuff. Getting people involved in it is the best way to companies start that transformation. And so making sure you prioritize those ones that you can get going quickly and get, have some impact and that you can measure. Of course, we talk about measuring impact, and you've got to be able to measure all that is really, really important. And then you can develop that roadmap of, what that longer term. So yeah, some things might take because we don't have the foundation in place of the right data, or we might need some new technology or whatever. So those things can come in over time. So you develop a longer term roadmap, but getting the initial, quick wins, quick use cases up and running is really, really valuable and powerful. And then, that longer term roadmap. So that's kind of on the use case piece, then wrapping around that to the culture, it's one of continuous learning and the sort of the freedom to fail. All right. Try stuff, right? That building that culture is absolutely key to the long term.
And the interesting part about this entire process is it opens the mind for creativity. Sometimes you find people, they can change the entire way of operating the entire workflows based on creating an application that really, helps streamline everything. And what I'm finding these days is you can do those for very low cost, which is interesting.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean, because one of the things, I was talking about the re-engineering your job, right? So you should always be evaluating what you're doing, right? You should always be asking, or the ideal is that you always got staff asking, why do we do it this way? Couldn't there be another way? But the reality is, unless there's some driving force, some people will do it, some organizations will do it, some better than others. But what this does is it forces you to do that. It forces you to think like that. And that's, as you said, then it's amazing because when you do start taking those thoughts, it's like, oh yeah, of course you can be doing it a different way. And technology, of course, is part of that because some of that process will be AI, automation, or whatever. But even going through that process of just thinking, how could we do it differently, creates opportunity. And as you said, it's fascinating that produces such great results. So yes, AI and automation has its part in that, but just the kick that forces companies to go through this is very powerful in itself.
What do you recommend is a process for measuring the impact of AI? Like how can we measure the return on investment of making sure that this initiative is high impact?
It really, you need a balanced scorecard because going back to what I said, so you need at all different levels, right? So going back to what I said, remember this is about what are you trying to achieve as a business, right? What's your goals there? Revenue, profit, whatever. So it absolutely starts with how's it impacting the business goals? Then of course the next layer, the operational goals. So is it increasing efficiency? Is it, turnaround time, measuring customer satisfaction, for example, having an impact? Great example, we I throw this out there, Klarna, which you probably may have heard of. It's a payment plan. It's a fintech company, and they replaced some of their global support. I think 800 out of their 1,200 customer support people they replaced with AI. And of course, there was a cost saving. So from a business perspective, I think they're saving themselves 40 million a year, which isn't pocket change, but for a big company, it's But what was fascinating, so that's one metric. What was fascinating to me with some of the other metrics. So the time that it took, the average time it took for someone to get their resolution, a problem, went from 11 minutes to 3 minutes. So it's not just a cost saving thing. The customer experience now is so much better. I haven't seen the impact on their net promoter score, for example, but I guarantee that those sort of customer service impact have great impact on the NPS. And then even more, the number of times that the people, so the sort of repeat people having to come back to customer service because it wasn't so, again, was dramatically reduced. So not only you had a positive impact on the bottom line because you've saved some cost, you've had a very positive impact on the customer experience. And then, okay, yes, you've had some job disruption because you haven't got as many customer service people, but then the customer service people you've got left, they're dealing with the more complex stuff. They're dealing with the more interesting stuff that AI can't deal with, and you really need to have a conversation, and it's more tricky. And so yes, there's job disruption. I'm denying that, but actually, to me, that's a great view of looking at different levels and the impact that AI can have. And then, of course, there's one layer below that where you should be tracking is things like what's the adoption, what's the usage. So just making sure that people are adopting it. And if they're not, why not? Is it more training, skills, or whatever? What's the barriers? So it's really having that balanced scorecard of metrics to be able to measure against.
This takes us to the culture. Like you mentioned before that we should worry about culture. How can we design a culture that's open to adoption? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said, it goes back to also what I was saying earlier. That the idea of continuous learning. Test and learn. Right, test and learn has been a phrase that's been thrown around for many years, and it's absolutely vital. And people need the psychological, again, creating that psychological safety to fail, right? Because some organizations, oh no, you can't fail. You've got to create that psychological safe that people feel like, yeah, we can try stuff, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, whatever. We're being praised. Sorry, you talk about it, how you engender this culture. Then it is making sure that management are pointing out, are calling out those people that are trying, right? That they are, yeah, this worked, this didn't work, but people are trying. So what are people being rewarded for? What are people being recognized for? That changes, right? With you need to change with AI and creating this test and learn environment that everyone a continuous learning and putting mechanisms in place to measure it and then to adapt to it, and then aligning people's also people, what management are focusing on, what they're praising. But then, of course, it goes down to compensation as well. How are you giving someone a bonus? Right, we'll give someone a bonus because they've tried 20 new AI things this year, or whatever it might be. But so making sure that compensation is aligned to that, making sure that management, is not just paying lip service to it, that they really are recognizing that and creating that psychological safety for people to say, yeah, we can try stuff, we can fail, but we learn. I mean, I'm not saying you should. Sounds like it doesn't matter. Nothing worked, but having those ongoing optimization mechanisms within the business.
And what's the difference between the way people adopt AI for smaller companies as opposed to mid-size and large?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So our AI Catalyst partners really focus on the SME, the slightly larger of the smalls into the mediums. And this is where I think there has been a difference in adoption. So I think, the top end, for enterprise clients, for enterprise companies, they have, trying to get, they're all in on it, or they're trying to be, but big organizations take time to change, but they can afford to hire the right talent or try and hire the right talent. So they're trying. Now, they're big organizations, and we still hear a lot of exactly what I was saying not to do before. And I won't on this open podcast mention names to protect the not so innocent. But we were talking to someone the other day, and he's like, yeah, my CEOs, we've just bought 1,000. This is a global organization. Yeah, we just bought 1,000 Copilot licenses. And now the CEO's going, right, what are we doing with these 1,000 licenses? Copilot, $20, $25 a month times 1,000. That's a lot of money before you start getting. So yes, you're seeing them, use cases, starting, piloting. I think, but there's still a lot of, we must be in AI. We've got to be saying something on AI. And our earnings call, you've got to be saying something in AI. So, there's a lot of that. But big companies, they are trying a lot. I think for big companies where they're struggling is going from pilot to scale. Because it is, pilots work great, but, now we want to scale this to a global business. How does that work? So I think those are some of their challenges. Small businesses, 1, 2, 3 man band, women or men band, people band, for them, it's really easy because, go and buy a license, go and use ChatGPT. And, notwithstanding what I was saying about putting confidential information, you can improve your productivity. Yeah, you can do a lot by buying a tool here, buying the right tool there, and using ChatGPT. And so that, that becomes a skill thing for them and just feeling comfortable with it. But it's relatively easy to start having an impact in the business. Where the challenge is the market that we serve. Because once you've got 50 people, for example, in a business, and, you've got that wide range of fears, knowledge, skills, right? And you've got to level set everyone, right? You've got, so that's the first thing. Then you've got complexity in, well, we have still got all these use cases. We could do so much, but where do we start? Right. And we're not a big company that we've got so many resources that we can, have. I was talking to again, as a global, low cost retailer. And they've got loads of different pilots going in different parts of the world. Oh, yeah, I've got a team of 40 people in the UK and all that. So it's great. Where you're a team of 5 or 6, senior managers and managers, you haven't got. So it's the mid-tier that I think has got the biggest challenge. And that's what we're trying to help and serve. Because they have enough complexity, too much complexity, enough complexity. They can't just, be nimble and, let's just choose a tool, but not big enough to, to be able to hire an army to help them. So it's that mid-tier that's being more challenging.
It's all,
that's what we're for.
Yeah. It depends on the application. What are you trying to do? What are you Like it's I find it difficult to give a definitive answer in this space. That things are all over the place. You can take a small initiative, you can take a big initiative. It's just
I think, yeah, no, you can. And I mean, that's, well, I think there's a number of challenges with AI right now. I think the one is actually goes back to, yes, there is so much. So where do you start? And
yeah.
as I was saying earlier, finding those early wins while you think about those things that do take it are bigger opportunities and could take longer, just getting that sequence right. But the other challenge with AI is because the technology changes every single day. I mean, honestly, I wake up sometimes. I I woke up a couple of months ago on a Sunday, and I was just overwhelmed. I was just like, I mean, I looked at my news feeds. I was like, there's just and I was like, oh my word, what? I can't keep up with this. And I'm in this 24/7, right? I'm all over. I can't keep up with this. And I was like, what? And I saw a couple of hours later, I kind of calmed down and thought, well, if I can't keep up, then my clients certainly can't. And so that's where I can add value to help them, But it's so fast moving, and every given day that something else is happening. And that means, it's very hard. What do we do? And so I think it has a couple of impacts. One is that it is absolutely vital that you get the other piece right, get the people side right, get the culture right. Yeah. Because you get that right, the continuous learning, great. Technology will evolve, right? But if the people have the right mindset and you put the right process of continual improvement and continual learning in, then it mitigates a lot of what's going on with the technology. And then from the technology side, it is so fast moving. And one of the things we help our clients with is, what is the framework that we can put in place? Right? Yeah. So we can start to swap out technologies. A new model LLM comes in that's better at writing, or it's better at doing something, or it's cheaper. Great. How do we create a framework that we can swap out and start using Claude 3.7 that got launched yesterday versus, we're using OpenAI 4 Mini for a project? How can you so building those frameworks from a technical perspective that you can start to swap some of this technology out is also, quite key to this. It changes so quickly. It's fascinating. We started talking to a client. I met him yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. We were doing a demo of the first sort of demo of the solution we're delivering for them. And we started talking to them in last June. And in June, he was like, July, I want to do this, but we're really busy for a few months. It's a small business, so we're really busy for a few months. Like, we won't be able to do this till November. Great. Go to them in November. So by the time we started talking to them in November, what they wanted to do, the technology that we were thinking of using had obviously changed, right? But in between November, when we started signing the contract with them, when we signed off the solution design in January, beginning of January, again, technology had moved on. By the time we saw them yesterday, and we were talking about some bits, and we're like, we were doing it like that, but actually, this has come out now, so we're going to try. So it just continually evolves. And so, as I say, getting the frameworks right, getting the people side right and the mentality right, that's why it's so key.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess the point that you started in, starting with the basics. What's the vision? Where are we going?
It keeps it, because that has to be your North Star, right? Because it's, again, you can be distracted by OpenAI has come out with deep research or the whole DeepSeek thing, it's just that. Clients, obviously, a few weeks ago, that's all they want to talk about. Oh, so what do you think about DeepSeek? I was like, well, I can give you my opinion, but if you're going to ask me, does it matter one bit to you and what we're trying to achieve for you? No. So yes, technology is fast changing, and keeping that vision of what you're trying to achieve as a business, as your North Star, is absolutely key.
So tell me a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys do, how you guys can help, and what's your final advice for business owners.
Sure. So my vision with my co-founder Joseph, we really wanted to enable. We've actually branded ourselves as an AI enablement company, not as a consultancy, but an enablement company. Why? Because we want to enable people. So we enable the right skills, right? The right training, the right skills. We enable a company because we help them with the developing use cases, help them develop the vision, helping them develop. How do you put in, as you were asking before, how do we put in that right culture? How do we bring those pieces in? And then finally, we enable the technology. So we have an operating model called ICE. So it's inform, consult, and execute. But it really covers those three different areas. And for me, I see that as being really important because, as you've heard me talking about, trying to enable the technology alone without the people or the culture, it's not going to be effective. And so that's why we try and join those up and have those, as I say, call ourselves an enabling company, but it's enabling people, the company, and the technology.
If someone wants to get in touch, work with you guys, how can they do that? How can they contact you?
So yeah, Matthew Simons. I think actually if you type Matthew Simons on LinkedIn, Matthew Simons AI, I come up top. There are a few other Matthew Simons, but Matthew Simons, AI Catalyst Partners. So we're on LinkedIn, www.AICatalystPartners.com, and we can be contacted through there. So yeah, it'd be lovely to speak to people about. I mean, I always like talking to people about where they're at with their challenges and what they're doing, and just hearing more, what other people are doing with AI. It's fascinating to me. So yeah, I'd love to hear from some of your listeners, your viewers. That'd be fantastic.
Thank you, Matthew. This was amazing. There's a lot here to cover, and it's technology changes. Like, there's no point in digging into a certain specific application, but that was a great overview of everything, what's possible, and how to approach it. Thank you for the insights. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, as I said, the overarching thing that I'll leave you with and your listeners is embrace it, get on board with it, learn it, use it, personal, business. That's the way that to enable yourself for the future.
Thank you.
Jad, thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into the Resilient in Business podcast. This show is all about providing valuable insights and inspiring entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward no matter the challenges. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and help us spread the message. See you on the next one.